lobbyists. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer released updated drug pricing language last week for a bill that could reach the Senate floor before the August recess. But will it work? In-depth analysis from Paul Seegert, managing partner at PCS Advisors. Paul, we've seen this dance before. Explain the latest iteration.
What they're trying to do is get a bill through reconciliation that would allow Medicare to negotiate directly with drug manufacturers on drug pricing, which, believe it or not, the largest purchaser of drugs globally does not negotiate its own prices currently. They outsource that to the insurance industry and pharmacy benefit managers. And if this bill were to pass, it would require Medicare to negotiate for as many drugs as possible directly with manufacturers, with, of course, the goal of getting lower pricing.
Sounds good in theory, but what's the problem here?
Well, most of the lobbyists, in one word, will see how successful they can be. Lobbyists give very generously to all sides of the aisle, or both sides of the aisle. And the waste really doesn't live with the manufacturers. The waste in the current model lives with the pharmacy benefit managers who manage the formularies, adjudicate and pay drug claims, and negotiate drug pricing. They represent, as an example with insulin, they represent 60% of the cost of that transaction. So the real question will be, do they address the real waste? Are we going to go after the pharmacy benefit managers that are adding waste to the cost of drugs and inflating the cost of many prescriptions 30, 40, 50, 60%? If we're leaving that untouched, we're not really addressing the problem.
So by pressing the pharmaceutical companies, are they trying to solve the issue with the pharmacy benefit managers indirectly?
Well, if they remove them out of the process entirely, which would be extremely, just from a practical standpoint, difficult, they ultimately, what this could do, I think on the high end, is impact overall big pharma revenue 3, 4, 5, 6% if they do it this way. And they could do it without going through this whole effort. If they were to say Medicare Part D plans have to use pharmacy benefit managers that will only make a per-script fee as their source of revenue, as a sole source of revenue, they could lower drug pricing 30, 40, 50, 60%.
Wow.
And not 3, 4, 5, 6%. So I think this is a more favorable route for the industry, probably the result of lobbying, but with the same impact, at least on the steps of the Capitol, to say we're doing something about it. But this is a much smaller threat to the industry than were they to pass some rules around how pharmacy benefit managers are allowed to make their money.
So would this be considered a step towards socialized medicine?
Well, if it's price setting, that could be. If it's negotiation, then maybe it's a step closer to an actual free market in healthcare and the way we do it. So implementation will matter. And I think the industry is concerned. The precedent that this could set maybe it only starts by chipping away at a few points of their revenue, but it could grow from there if Medicare were allowed to negotiate directly for prices on drugs. So I think it could be, depends how it gets implemented, but it could be a step in the right direction in terms of getting some free market forces going on. It could lower prices a bit. Like I said earlier, a few points of Big Pharma's total revenue. That is at least a small step in the right direction. If we continue to have conversations around this and actually continue down this path and look at the pharmacy benefit management model and how much waste it's adding to the cost, then we can get some real progress made.
And the main issue here is the pharmaceutical lobby.
Yep, they give with precision, very, very precision giving from this industry to all the folks on both sides of the aisle in the right committees. And where we often see that makes its big impact is in implementation of the rules. A law might pass, it sounds good, but then when it's in implementation, how does it really get implemented? Hospital transparency rule is a great example of that. When they came out and said the fine was going to be $300 a day, and you have multi-billion-dollar operations, these hospitals, it was a clear indication that lobbying had been successful, and it wasn't really going to be implemented. And today we have 0.5% of hospitals complying.
All right, thanks, Paul. Paul Seegert, managing partner at PCS Advisors. More on this potential bill. According to a summary of drug pricing provisions obtained by Axios, negotiations would begin next year, and the new negotiated prices would take effect in 2026.